well. So this one actually came out on March 25th. I hadn't saw it till recently, so I was just like you guys. I didn't know much about what was happening. So so I did get a chance to watch it, and just to let you know in advance, I very, very much enjoyed it. For me, it restarted the bar, right? So this to me is the best Batman film to date. I just so most of you that know me know that I didn't really like the Nolan franchise. I didn't dislike the Nolan franchise. It wasn't good stuff for me, right? So I didn't really progress any storylines for me, and it didn't really do much. So I just kind of opt out, and I just don't really discuss it with everybody because a lot of people like that franchise. So to dislike that franchise, you're crapping on a whole lot of young kids' dreams and stuff, right? So we celebrated like 75 years of Batman last year, right? So to me, missing a couple years is I'll just forget about it, right? So obviously, with the direction of where this is going right now, too, we just forget about it, right? So, and what's really, really funny is that so Zack Snyder's vision of Batman and Nolan's vision of Batman. So it's really funny is because Nolan is still attached to the project. He's still doing the producing and stuff, right? So let me pull up the IMDb just to make sure. It's his project. So he's the creator of Man of Steel. Zack is the producer. Zack's the director. I'm sorry. Zack Snyder. So he did 300. He did Inception. He did quite a few films now. The Watchmen. And then so he did Man of Steel, and then Zack also directed this new Batman versus Superman, which is called The Dawn of Justice. I think keep calling it Dawn of Steel for some reason. But anyways, let me pull up that information and we'll go ahead and get into it. Cool. So Henry Cavill is still the Superman character. He's from Man of Steel. So the IMDb rating for Batman vs Superman is real low, which is like 7.2. That's kind of low for such a big film. Which to me is just mostly says the American audience didn't get it, which to me is right on key, right? So, as I discussed this with a lot of people, the American audience is not very keen on smart films, right? So smart ones are generally not understood, right? So a not understood film in the American audience and the American perspective is a bad film, right? So anybody you talk to about the Batman versus Superman, as far as I've heard so far, it's just been negative reviews. So as I was watching it, I thought that, and most times for me is that's the indicator specifically that if most people didn't like it, that means I'll usually like it. And I have several examples. I'll try to think of several examples so I mean, for instance, one of my favorite films is the Tom Cruise. Jeez. Let me just pull it up. Yeah, so Edge of Tomorrow, right? So Edge of Tomorrow was one of the films that, I mean, I thought it was one of the best films of the year. I mean, just because that year was like a bunch of crappy films. So oftentimes people just overlook films like that and Inception and stuff too, So those just weren't complex films are not the audience favorite, right? So this film was quite complex and you had to know both stories. So I was obsessed with Man of Steel. Man of Steel is one that I took around with me, like in my iPod and stuff, and just like watched constantly. So I very, very, very much enjoyed Man of Steel. Like it was, and they just he puts the literature and into the right context for me. So all the Zach's vision of the projects have just a supreme execution. To me, Zack Schneider is becoming the is becoming like a strong Ridley Scott. So the films that you watch, so the films that you watch his characters in, they exceed the story, like in a sense that we're watching a Batman film, but the film is not really about Batman. It's about Batman's passion for people. It's about how he's losing his way due to this powerlessness that he feels, due to this super strong person that he's extremely paranoid. So what's happening in the beginning of Batman versus Superman is that we're still dealing with so we're seeing the aftermath of what Zod and Superman had done to Metropolis. So apparently Bruce Wayne owned the building there. So it doesn't get into the finite details of how, why, when, and so as far as we know, Gotham and Metropolis are on top of each other. You know, so they're all one big metroplex, and so you know, one side is north and one side is east, or one side's west, one side's east, and whatever, right? So in this film, it feels like that more so than anything. That Batman and Superman live in the exact same world, not like they're two different comics. Like they're an extension of the same comic, and that's pretty much how they're trying to make Marvel and both the DC universes kind of feel. So even though that is in each comic you're dealing through a writer's perspective, and each series you're doing through a writer's perspective. So we have a unique perspective here with Snyder's vision combined with Nolan's vision. So Nolan's brother and Nolan wrote the Batman franchise and the Man of Steel. So I'm interested. I know David S. Goyer got most of the writing credits here in Batman versus Superman. So let me pull up the Man of Steel as well, and then that way we can just kind of compare and contrast. Because most of the team is still here, to my understanding. When I was watching everything go through the production aspect. Bear with me just a sec. So David S. Goyer wrote the story and screenplay for the first one as well. Man of Steel. So Christopher Nolan was accredited as well for the Man of Steel. So for writing credits, and also so Nolan works right directly with his brother. Bear with me. I want to get his brother's name, so that way we're just not saying he and his brother. Cool. So just to go ahead and flip the lid on what's happening in these worlds is when they updated these guys, Superman and Batman, both of them are killing people now. So and in both stories. So obviously it's been a few years since the Man of Steel. So we saw him kill Zod, which we know about Superman as a Boy Scout, right? That's his. That's a constant joke that they have of him, and it's been a constant running theme for such a long time until for me, um, well, as recently as Kingdom Come, we saw him bite the bullet per se, you know. So somebody killed Lois, and he doesn't kill the person who kills Lois. He apprehends them and turns them in. Another newer villain kills that a newer younger hero kills the villain that kills Lois. So kind of spiting Superman because obviously if anyone was to kill him, you know, he would be the one to have done it. But you know, he got snubbed there because you know Superman turns him in, and then this other guy in the Kingdom Come kills the killer of Lois Lane. Cool. Bear with me just a second. Let me pull up the. I want to look up Nolan's brother real quick, so we can see what his involvement was with the Man of Steel. Oh, well, I was talking about uh, so I was talking about James Momoa being in Justice League, and I was just saying how unconfirmed it was and stuff. So he's actually was in the film, in the Batman versus Superman film. So throughout the process, so we're seeing the fallout of, and his brother's name is Jonathan Nolan. So Jonathan and he partner very often, including with Dark Knight, Interstellar, also Memento was one of the earlier ones. Cool. So, all right. A lot of it seems to go uncredited. So he did the co-screenwriting for The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. It's here it says Terminator Salvation, also Interstellar. But as to I've heard Christopher's direct recollections of the writing, and he and Christopher both did the writing on the Batman or the Man of Steel. So just in the credits, only Christopher is given credits with David S. Goyer, though. So I would assume Christopher let Jonathan on on his behalf. But anywho, cool. So that's great. They led that series in a very good direction. So in the film itself, some of the themes that are going on is some of the overall strong themes that are more consistent are romance. So obviously Lois Lane and Clark Kent. So in the first one, where there's no facade here, there never has been with them. So she knows his mom. Everything's out, right? So how the details happen, we still have a lot of the same details that happen, both in both stories. So even in Man of Steel, they start out in Smallville. So even in this film, it's a Batman film. So Superman is a part of this film, but this film is a Batman film, right? So we start out with the origins of Batman. Again, we see Bruce's father and Bruce's mom die again. And the beats fall, the gun cock. You shoot the father first, and then shoot the mother second, and leave the boy, right? So we see that happen again. We see the recreation. There's the funeral. There's the him fleeing from the funeral and falling. But this is all done in the intro. So, and then we go right into the film, which is Bruce pulling up while all that catastrophe is happening in the sky with Superman and Zod. So they fly into the Batman building. Batman is trying to call ahead and get everyone out, and he's losing connection. All of this chaos is happening. Streets are blowing up. He's cutting down all the streets and stuff, heading toward the chaos. And so he is stopped by a bunch of people in the middle of the road, and he gets out and looks at and sees what's happening and sees the building that he's going to try to get people out being demolished and destroyed. And as it comes down, he's running towards it, and kind of like 9/11, where you're seeing all the smog, and so he's running straight for this, and it hits him in a wave of fog, and in this chaos, he sees it starts to clear. He starts to see people. He starts to see people from the building that he knows, and saves this guy, saves this girl from these falling things, and he has this scorn for for Superman. His disdain for doing his negligence for having it all out in the city like this. The people. Um, so a lot of it is washed up. So the main thing that you gather from a lot of this is the main story element that is subliminal, that we don't know, is the conundrum. So it gives ties to the character. It gives directions to the character. So Superman is and that's what I mean is the conundrum itself is the tool here of emotion. So as we go through, we begin. There's no relating. So um, Alfred tries to explain this to Batman in such a way, and then Superman just takes this Boy Scout um, side, and where they end up meeting is both their affinity for their mothers. So during this struggle where Batman and Superman are supposed to kill each other, this has all been finagled and plotted and set up by Lex Luthor, and during the struggle, Batman has the upper hand and is about to lay a final blow, and the Superman cries out that if he kills him, he's going to kill Martha as well, and Batman has no idea what he's talking about. Batman is extremely paranoid, and he's engulfed with this rage in this film. He's going to end Superman right now purely because he's scared of him. It's like a man killing a snake. He doesn't understand him. He doesn't think that he's good. So this has led to a massive amount of paranoia and rage, fueled by people he knows who have been victim to his. Where Superman's life hangs in the balance. He screams out this name, and it brings hesitation to Bruce. And Bruce wants to know why he knows this name and why he called this name at this very moment. And Lois comes in and stops Batman from hurting Superman. And she says to him that that's his mother. So obviously, when he called out Martha's name, all he could see is his own mother. So it caused this hesitation, which allowed Lois to get in between them, and obviously Batman would never strike Lois down to get to Batman, but it did stop him altogether in the way that so more plot was allowed to be revealed, and they kind of bind together, and together they go. And so what was really cool about this film is I didn't know anything about the plot at all. I didn't care to, and even the stuff that we did see gave no opening to what we watch. Doomsday comes out of nowhere, right? So you guys have seen the film, right? So Doomsday comes absolutely out of nowhere. So I didn't know it was coming. I didn't know this movie was going to be a setup for the Justice League at all. I thought we were just going to watch Batman, Superman duke it out, and that'd be the end of it, right? So we've seen it before. There was an animated film with Batman and Superman, but it wasn't what the comic was supposed to be. So the comic, in the comic, Brainiac takes over Superman and makes him kill a bunch of people and pretty much makes him insane. And anyways, Batman creates a kryptonite bullet and pretty much shoots him, but removes the bullet. Okay, so in this one, Batman creates a spear, and he cuts Superman's face, so I imagine we'll get to see the scar more, or they'll put the scar again. But yeah, so he's gonna take his head off. But anyways, we uncover that Flash has been assembled. Well, not assembled. No one's been assembled yet. So anyways, there are only 3 of them now that stand together, which Superman sacrifices himself and dies. And I don't know if you guys know, but I've read the comics, the death of Superman. And he dies for like 3 months, and then he comes back. It has something to do with the sun, right? So he can't really die. His heart just stops, and blah, 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 blah. So anyways, Superman will come back, right? They'll write it in there, hopefully, right? So anyways, yeah. The Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman now. So Batman and Superman are like super tight now. So man, Superman sacrificed himself, and then Batman carried his body, and like that whole scene was super amazing. So this film to me was kind of like what X-Men Origins was trying to do for X-Men, but X-Men Origins was pretty good. But that whole franchise was iffy. They had like a good film, bad film, good film, bad film, right? So X2 and X Origins was good, right? So and then the latest X-Men, which one was that? Anyway, was the first year? Anyways, and the new one is going to be real good too, I think. Anywho, cool. I hope you liked the enjoy Ben as Batman, and so he's going to actually he's getting the opportunity to write the next Batman and direct it, right? So they're gonna reboot it. So yeah, go check it out. Yeah.